All right, here we go. E.D.I mean of the Outlawz.
What's up, my guy?
What's up, man? What's up? One of my real friends is in the building right now. We talk all the time.
We do.
We keep in contact all the time. We'd be having lunch more often if not for this craziness that's happening right now. Yeah.
But we still manage to communicate.
Yeah.
Chop it up about a plethora of subjects.
Of course.
And it's always good.
Yeah. I was actually on your show last time.
No doubt. We had a great time. Great interview.
Absolutely. Talking about stocks and Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
Right before the Bitcoin crash.
Which I've gotten into, not Bitcoin, but stocks. I've recently gotten back into it, and I'm all the way in.
Dope. It's an interesting time to be investing right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Before our interview, I always like to go through the person's catalog. So I really got to listen to a lot of your music this morning. I never realized how great of a song Real Talk is. That was actually the top song on Spotify.
It
is. Look up Outlawz.
It is, man. It is. We recently just put that back into our show. You know what I mean? When we were out moving about before everything took place doing shows, we decided to put Real Talk in because I realized what you just said, that it's probably our most popular song post Tupac that we've recorded as a group.
Right, and that album was just you and Noble.
No, that album was actually, Castro was still in the group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was still in the group then. He's actually on Real Talk. He did a crazy verse at the end of Real Talk. And yeah, you know what I mean? That was Outlawz for Life, 2005.
Was Napoleon like no longer rapping by that time?
Nah, he was done by that point.
Okay. And why did Castro, why is he no longer in the mix?
You know, I always like to, when I speak about Castro, I tell people that this was never Castro's dream. Like, the rap wasn't really something he wanted to do. It was really more, you know, if you talk about Tupac, Castro, and Yafeo, it was more me and Pac's thing. We wanted to be the rappers. Pac obviously had other aspirations as far as acting and all of that. But, you know, Castro never really wanted to be a rapper. He kind of just wanted to be around, get the girls, you know, have a good time. You know what I mean? But he still is and was a very smart person, a very intelligent person, always got very good grades in school, used to help me with my math, you know what I mean? And could have went on to do anything, you know what I mean? Anything he wanted to do, but he got caught up in the rap dreams that we had and you know what I mean? So having that said that, you got that, him never really wanting to be a rapper, and then what it takes to maintain a career is a lot, to say the least. That's an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, when you no longer have big songs on the radio and you have to figure out
you
how to
really
keep
grind,
maintaining an income and switch things up and reinvent yourself and
be able to adapt. The whole internet situation comes into play. I think he just lost taste for it, you know what I mean, after a while.
Yeah, well, at least he was honest with himself.
Yeah.
But what's he doing these days?
He's actually in school.
Oh, okay.
He actually is in school for architecture, engineering, and he's doing good.
Well, and then I got to also check out the Still I Rise album. That has some real gems on it.
Yes, it did.
That has some real gems. So that was released in '99. So after Pac's passing. Okay, why'd you guys decide to put that out?
Well, that was a project that we was in the process of working on before he passed away. Obviously, we had a lot of songs together. And so some of those songs were, you know, teaching. We were in class, and some of those songs were, yo, this is dope, we're gonna use. So we didn't get to collectively pick the album together with Pac, obviously, or Gaddafi. But you know, we always had that was in the arsenal. You know what I mean? After Machiavelli, that was ready to go. It was gonna be our debut. We was gonna do the album together. You know, Pac specifically said, I'm gonna be a member of the Outlawz. This is, you know, Machiavelli's my solo album, Outlawz a group album, and we're gonna do it like a full-fledged group. And we was already in the process of recording those songs. So it was kind of like thankfully, Fanny with her blessings kind of just let that be just a little late of something that was already gonna drop. You know what I mean? And it was just a little late.
What label? It came out under Death Row.
It came out under partnership, Death Row, in the scope of Morrow.
Okay. So was it really under Death Row, or Death Row just had the
Well-
rights to some of the music?
Well, it kind of, Suge had say so.
Okay.
He did have say so.
So what was that process?
That's the reason why we only had one single.
Huh.
Yeah.
Meaning what?
Baby Don't Cry. Because, Suge wanted some things and we weren't in agreement with that. And so he was like, I'm shutting it down.
What did Suge want?
Some things.
Okay. And you guys weren't cool with it?
Yeah. I'm gonna be, frank, we wasn't with it at all.
Okay. And because of that, after the first single, the promotion stopped?
Yeah.
The budget stopped?
Because Interscope, I think, didn't want to deal with him. Now he's upset, and so it's like, we're just gonna walk away from this. And it's a platinum album. It's on its way to platinum. Baby Don't Cry. It's charting all over the place, you know what I mean? And it just got shut down. We was ready to do the next single, and it just, that's it.
Right.
Back to the drawing board.
And you're on Baby Don't Cry.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the second verse.
Yeah.
Noble's on the third. Well, and what's also interesting is the first song, Letter to the President, you start that off.
Uh-huh.
And that's such a very interesting song right now, especially.
Crazy, huh?
With what's going on.
Yeah, somebody DM'd me that, what I said, and you know what I mean, and asked me why I said that. And it's because you could just go back through history and just see the same conditions, especially if you want to talk about police brutality, racism, all of that stuff has been a part of American history pretty much since day one. So I'm not a genius because I said it ain't getting better. You know what I mean? Pac, he's a genius, but it didn't take a genius for him to say it's gonna be some stuff you're gonna see in the future that's gonna make it hard for you to smile. Because that's fucking life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much life.
I feel you. And I just interviewed Craig Hodges.
Mm.
Are you familiar with his story?
Not, and I know the ball player.
Well, let me tell you. Craig Hodges, who played with the Jordan Bulls, has 2 rings with the Bulls. The second time he won his championship, they went to go visit the White House. Now, keep in mind, Craig Hodges grew up in a household in Chicago where his mom was like Angela Davis, essentially. He would go to meetings, he would hand out pamphlets. Voter suppression was a big topic in his house. His mom had a big afro, very much a pro-Black household. So when he went to go to the White House to meet the president, he went in a dashiki and he wrote a handwritten letter to George H.W. Bush Sr. And after that letter was dropped off, he never played in the NBA ever again. And you get dropped by the Bulls,
Right.
And no team calls you.
Not at all.
Do you think that was in retaliation to that letter?
Absolutely, man. And what's so funny about it is that as we sit here, it'll be like somebody pulling, you can't do VladTV tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, you can't do no more VladTV. And you be like, man, look at my credentials, man. I done did 12 years of this. I got a library at work.
Get the fuck out of here.
True story. We just interviewed him, and we'll cut to this little part here so people can see for themselves. He never played, coming off a championship.
No team
would pick him up. And one guy from, I believe, the Supersonics basically told him, hey, man, brothers got to pay their bills, if you know what I mean. Meaning, like, you coming over here, I might be out of a job. So
it's like a precursor to the Kaepernick situation.
It's exactly what that is.
Wow.
He never played again. And years later, Phil Jackson brought him in as an assistant coach with the Kobe Lakers, and he won 2 championship rings
Nice.
on that side.
Nice.
So it was a nice ending
Phil is
to
solid,
that story.
Man. Phil is the best, man.
Yeah.
Gotta love Phil, man. That's dope.
Yeah, Phil didn't give
But that's crazy that story was suppressed. Like, you never heard that. Like,
yeah.
This is my first time hearing that story.
Yeah, and you're into stories like this, obviously.
Absolutely. And basketball.
Right, you were named after Malcolm X.
Exactly.
Hence your first name, Malcolm.
Absolutely.
Right. Just goes to show.
I'm supposed to know this type
You're
of stuff.
You're supposed to know this kind of thing. That's right.
And I didn't know that story, but that's, you know, that's crazy.
This is a true story. He never played for the NBA again, all because of a letter to the president.
He wrote a letter to the president.
Which you guys wrapped.
That must have been a hell of a letter.
Yeah.
That must have been
a handwritten letter at that.
And handwritten at that.
Yeah, and you can't hand a letter directly to the president, right, when you're at the White House. So he gave it to like one of his aides, and they assured him. And he said that when he met with George Bush and said, hey, I wrote you a letter. And he said the Bush was very friendly. Oh, really? Okay. You know, okay, I look forward to reading it. Well, thank you. You know, he was very cool about it.
So tell me, he talks about what the letter.
It basically was about I'm supposed to get a copy of the letter, actually.
Okay.
I haven't read it yet.
All right. So I'll be watching.
He's supposed to send me a copy, so, you know, we'll show some extras.
That'd be interesting to see what that letter said.
Yeah, but a very, very true story. And this is actually the guy that tried to push Jordan to basically not renew his deal with Nike, because at the time they were playing, his Nike deal was coming to an end. And he said, you're big enough where you don't need Nike anymore. You could build factories in Chicago and employ black kids and start factories in North Carolina and so forth. Jordan wasn't trying to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Republicans buy sneakers too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, Jordan got a right to feel that way, man. I really, you know, I know a lot of people, especially under the umbrella that I sit under, would feel like Jordan is supposed to do something. He doesn't have the right to do anything. He's in business. This is business, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have to set up a factory in Chicago.
You don't have
Even though millions of black kids buy his sneakers, he doesn't have to do that.
You don't have to set up a factory in Chicago and go through all the work behind starting your own company.
And nobody even could imagine what it would take to do that.
Right. You don't have to do that. You don't have to donate millions of dollars. But you have situations where there was a black candidate that was running against Jesse Helms in North Carolina, who is an established racist. And Jordan's own mother said, hey, just take a picture with the candidate to show some level of support, and Jordan would not do that. Something that cost him nothing.
Absolutely.
Except maybe a sponsorship later on.
You and I probably would do it in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
Jordan's a different animal.
Yeah.
That's why he's Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying?
More ways than one.
And you glad and I'm E.D.
I'm glad.
You know what I mean? But, you know, I just, you know, at this age of my life, that's how I look at things. You know, if you have expectations, you'll always be disappointed, especially with humans. Humans are going to disappoint you every time if you have expectations. And people had expectations of Jordan, and that's why I'm glad this came out, because you get to see the good, the bad, the ugly. You know what I mean? You could kind of just, like, he was Superman to us, and so now we see Michael Jordan as really a human being. You know what I mean? He's great at what he do. He got some f***ed up shit about him, just like everybody else.
Yeah. Call his teammates.
You know what I mean? Like that, come on, man. And you know, that's that testosterone. It's a guy sport. Like, we was about as bad as that or worse than that in the studio.
Yeah, I bet.
Pac was relentless.
Yeah. And Black Jesus was on that album as well. And that has the Smoke My Ashes line in Tupac, which you guys took literally.
After Tupac died, the outlaw smoked his ashes. Is that true?
Yeah, it's definitely true. You know, I think it was the night of his had a little memorial for him, you know, with his mom, his family, and and we had hit the beach and you know, threw a lot of he liked in the beach. You know, some weed, some chicken wings, some, you know, he loved orange soda, all that kind of shit.
In the ocean.
Yeah, you know, Pac loved that kind of shit. So, you know, we was just giving him our own, you know, farewell. And that night, you know, I forgot which one of us came up with it. You know, they had this ash. And, you
Pac
know,
came up with that. If you listen to Black Jesus, he said, "Last wishes to smoke my ashes."
no doubt.
You know what I mean? So that was a request.
Is that the line that made you guys smoke the ashes?
Yeah, I mean, you know, what we were told were ashes. You know what I mean? Like, we definitely got to make sure we say that. But that was a conversation that we had prior to even doing that song.
Ah, okay.
You know what
so
I mean?
the song was a byproduct of him actually talking about it.
The song was just a song, and he had that line in there.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean, that's what he chose to talk about on the song. But it wasn't like we had that conversation, now we're going to go do a song about it. You know what I mean? The conversation was a real conversation. He was giving us some history on where it came from, what he learned about it. You know what I mean? Why it was something that he thought was interesting, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be some shit, you know what I mean, if one of us died, and you know what I mean? Just so we always a part of each other, we did that. Wouldn't that be something? You know what I mean? Talk about when you're young and you high.
Hey, I don't want the people close to me smoke my ashes. That actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, well, it's something the Native Americans did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where it comes
this is not
from.
something he just came up with himself.
Nah, because he had Native American friends that he went to school with that told him about that. I don't know whether it was in the Bay or in Baltimore, but yeah, so it was an actual, you know, lesson behind that. You know what I mean? And that's where other songs like Made came from, and Illuminati would come from these real conversations that we would just have, you know what I mean, without being in the studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'll put it out there too. Anyone who's close to me, man, you're welcome to smoke my ashes.
So that's what
I'll make my family have it not publicly, but privately available to certain people in my will.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You know, be a part of the people I care for. I like it. I like it. And you know, this interview was sort of was kind of triggered by a conversation you and I were having about Eminem's statement saying Tupac was the best songwriter of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord Jamar not agreeing with that.
Right.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, well, you know, obviously, like I said, I'm biased, but I'm also biased with what I believe are facts. You know, I think the argument that was used was that Pac was more of an emotional artist than actually lyrical, or whatever the case may be, which would not put him in the criteria of a great songwriter. And I categorically disagree, because music, the whole foundation of music is emotion. You know, whether you're happy, you got your happy songs. You depressed, you got your depressed songs. You about to have some relation time with your mate. You got Marvin Gaye. All the greats made you feel some kind of way immediately. And then you got into them lyrically and sonically, but it was the emotion that captured you. And that's what Pac did the best, according to what they said. You know what I mean? He was great at evoking emotion. You know what I mean? And then lyrically, I mean, he's probably one of the most quoted artists of all times. You know what I mean? He has bars that are still being quoted. Memes are still, hundreds and thousands of memes being made to this day. Like, he's at home posting himself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the argument that Eminem has, I could see why he would say that, because as an artist, I'm sure Eminem would rather you feel something from his music and then trip off of him lyrically later. That's what I believe. You know what I mean? He may say, nah, I want you to get my lyrics first, but to me, most artists want you to feel them. I want you to feel my music.
Although Eminem is more of a technical, you know, multi-syllable type rapper.
Scientist, absolutely.
Like, he's the one, I mean, didn't he win some sort of like Guinness Book of World Records on like his last album?
I think he did. I heard something about that.
Like, I think the Godzilla song had the most number of syllables in a rap song ever. Like, not a lot of people could do that.
Yeah.
There's like him, Twister, Tech Nine. There's a small group of human
Absolutely.
beings that could pull that off. Tupac would never rap like that. That just wasn't really his thing.
Not at all.
He wasn't
Even when
trying
he
to
did the
shove
song with Bone
1,000
Thugs and
words.
Harmony, he rapped his own style.
Yeah,
he didn't try to
Everyone
do their
else was
style.
doing double time. He said,
Right.
nah,
Come right in. I'll probably be punished for hard living. You know what I mean? I can't do that.
I'm gonna go twice as slow as you guys.
Yeah, because I need y'all to hear me and feel me.
Yeah, and it worked. And it worked. And you're right. I guess the best songs are emotional songs.
That's what music is.
No Woman, No Cry. Not a lyrical masterpiece.
Not at all. On a piece of paper, that's not going to blow you away.
Right. Anyone could write that. Someone who doesn't even speak English that well could write that.
It's not going to blow you away.
Right.
You
But
know what
when
I
you
mean?
hear it, it's like, ooh, yeah.
The emotion behind it. And then you start to get into what Bob is saying. And that's what makes him one of the greats. Because you're like, wow, that resonate with my life. You know what I mean? That I want to make that a tattoo. It means so much to me. I need it tatted into my flesh. You know what I mean? And that you can find that all over the world when it comes to Tupac lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah. And he probably has more murals than anybody in music, probably.
Yeah.
Such a symbol of the protest. You know,
I would even argue that he's an underrated songwriter. You know what I mean? With the even with the accolades that he got and the millions of fans that he's got, I would even argue that he's underrated because his range is another thing that I don't think people really pay attention to. This is a guy who wrote Dear Mama and Hit 'Em Up. Like how extreme of emotional spectrum is that to be under one artist's catalog? You know what I mean? Most artists stay in a lane and they comfortable there and they do not venture out at all, especially when it comes to hip hop.
I mean, Biggie stayed in his lane the whole time.
The whole time.
A great lane to be in.
And killed it.
A phenomenal artist. So I don't
and
want
for that
anyone
lane,
to take this.
He owns it.
He owned that lane. But there was really nothing outside the lane that he went too far from.
Nah.
Everything was about balling, making money, some thugged out type.
And Biggie did have his songs like Suicidal Thoughts, you know, I Don't Want to Live No More, you know.
Yeah.
He would get, you know, show some vulnerability here, you know what I mean? And
yeah, but by the second album, that was all gone.
Definitely.
He wasn't getting the second album was all okay.
And one of my favorite songs from the second album, Sky's the Limit, was that one jewel that he gave everybody. You know what I mean? And even in that songs, Biggie is still, you know, the centerpiece, the winner. He's you know what I mean? I made it out. Check me out. You know what I mean? And killed it. That's my favorite Biggie song all time, Sky's the Limit.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about Hit 'Em Up. I remember one day you pointed out to me that you were the last surviving person on that song.
Depressing. Sometimes. To think about that. Because even Johnny J is gone.
Yeah, even the producer.
Yeah. And another record, All About You. Because even Nate's not here no more. You know what I mean? Snoop is still here at the end, but most of the people on that song is gone too.
Except for Snoop.
Except for Snoop.
Yeah, and he just did the outro.
Right.
He's not even on the song.
Yep.
Nate Dogg is gone. Who did the beat?
Johnny J.
Oh. How did Johnny J pass?
They say he died in jail. It was came out that he committed suicide, you know, but I think he fell off one of the tiers, jumped off, fell off. I'm not sure. It was really sketchy, you know what I mean? The story that came out about Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
That he was even in jail at the time too.
Well, Fat Joe was on live recently, and he was talking about how he purposely never liked Pac because of his friendship with Biggie.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he heard Changes, that made him change his mind. He actually cried
Mm-hmm.
when he heard that song. And what you pointed out was that Tupac wrote Changes at 19.
Wrote Changes
that was
at
an
19.
old song. That
was on his Interscope demo.
Oh, right.
And he didn't use it for Tupacalypse Now. I don't know if he couldn't get the sample cleared at the time, because I think that's Bruce Hornsby.
Yeah.
And But yeah, 19. Maybe even yeah, I say 19.
Yeah, and you could hear it in the rhyme style.
Mhm.
That was like, okay, I haven't been rapping that long. I need to stay on beat the whole time. Let me not really hop around, you know, kind of bend my words and, you know, do the stylistic things that he learned how to do later on.
I got a message, so I need you to get into the message, and I don't need to, you know, tie you up mentally with too much trickery.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When Tupac first came out with Tupacalypse Now, I didn't really see the vision of it. Brenda's Got a Baby, that was on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the standout. And Keep Your Head Up was on there?
No, I was on the second one.
Okay, so Brenda's Got a Baby,
Mm-hmm.
I thought was the one standout on that album. It was like, oh, okay. This is actually like
he's
a big song
different.
right here, like a real deep, important song.
Especially at that time.
Yeah, Trap came out and I'm like, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had Shock G in the video. That was kind of like the hook in a way, but it wasn't, I think, until the second album that he really, all right, got
He found a formula.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He found a formula, which was, you know, I guess in a way splitting the Gemini in half and saying I could do these records for the fellas and I can also do these records for the ladies and give Interscope the singles that they want, still keeping my core fan base satisfied, you know what I mean? And doing it with, you know, okay production at the time. You know what I mean?
He didn't get the best beats at that point.
Nah. Shock G definitely gave him a gem with I Get Around. You know what I mean? DJ Darryl gave him a gem with Keep Your Head Up. You know, but Pac didn't spend a lot of time on picking beats because, again, it was what he had to say. And the beat was just a backdrop for the message that for him was most important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until he got to Death Row.
And then it was more beats.
Me Against the World, Death Row era, he started to pay a little bit more attention to production and spend a little time on it.
Yeah, but then by that point, every producer wanted to work with him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was on Death Row, which was a hit factory.
Right.
Dr. Dre.
All the best producers was right there.
You know, Dr. Dre.
He didn't have to go nowhere.
There. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that you have a baby with Tupac's sister.
Mm-hmm.
Your oldest?
He's a man now, actually.
He's a big baby.
He's a man. He's actually a man.
How
now.
old is he?
He's 24.
24.
Yeah.
Okay. And you just don't hear a lot about Pac's sister, period.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you even forget that he has a sister. You know, because she doesn't do interviews.
Mm-hmm.
She's not, is she on social media?
I'm not sure. I believe here and there.
But not prominent on social media.
Nah, if you know, if she has something to I guess promote as far as the foundation, she'll do something like that. But she's not thirsty. She's not looking for any limelight or anything like that.
How did she take the death of her mother?
You know, one of the last things I said to her was, I hope I'm as strong as she is right now when my mother eventually goes, you know what I mean? Because that's tough, you know what I mean? They had a very close relationship, and I'm sure it's still not easy, but, you know, she's strong.
Yeah, it must be tough with such a big figure like Afeni, and seeing her mom go through the death of her son at 25, was it?
25.
How did she take the death of Pac?
Afeni?
No, his sister.
The same, like devastated. You know what I mean? Like for years, a lot of time, and you know, grieving. You know what I mean? Grief is a long-term process. It's not something that just, you know, gets wrapped up 6 months, 12 months, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You miss somebody and you love somebody forever.
Yeah. I mean, I lost my dad since our last interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to.
We spoke about that.
Yeah, we spoke about it.
Yeah.
It was a tough one.
So you know.
Yeah, I do, unfortunately. So now the estate is run by who exactly?
Your guess is as good as mine right now, Vlad. You know,
because wasn't it with Tom Wally or?
I know he definitely, had something to do or still has something to do, but I'm really not sure. You know, I really that part of Tupac's life has been out of my control. Was never really in my control. I had limited control over musically in the beginning, but it's other people that handle Tupac's business now, and I'm not one of them. And for my own peace of mind and sanity, it's best that way. You know what I mean? Because I was getting very, I think I was getting too caught up in his shit instead of focusing on my shit for a long time. You know what I mean? That's why I don't even really, like to do a lot of interviews anymore, because they turn out to be, more Pac, leaning. But I understand, I'm part of history, you know what I mean? And, I also don't want to be stingy with that history too, you know what I mean? And if people can get jewels and learn something and take our history and add on to it and continue pushing it forward, then I'm all for that.
Well, the last time we spoke was right before the movie came out. You were in the movie. I hadn't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
The movie comes out. I personally like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The overall reception was somewhat lukewarm. Would you say the reception to the Tupac movie was better or worse than the Biggie movie?
For me, it's funny because we got a little backlash from the Biggie movie because of their portrayal of Tupac in it. And some fans felt like we let them do that, even though the Outlawz personally have zero amount of control over what goes on in a Biggie movie, especially around Tupac. There was other people that had to approve that had to sign off on that. And trust me, when I say this, the Outlawz were not even close to that meeting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't even know about it. But then you get to the Pac movie and it's kind of the same kind of backlash. So what I always knew was that, to quote the great Marvin Gaye, ain't nothing like the real thing. Like, essentially what people want is Pac. They would rather have Pac come back and play himself, because no matter who you put on that screen, they're not going to be able to match that energy that was in real life.
Well, to be fair, the criticisms weren't really aimed at the guy who played Tupac.
Not at all. He did a solid job.
He actually did a solid job. What was his name?
Demetrius Shipp Jr.
Demetrius Shipp Jr. Most people said, yeah, looks like him, did a reasonable job acting like him. That's not really my qualm with this movie. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. I said that before it came out. I said he carries the movie. He
carries the movie. It's
he
not like, they should have
job.
gotten someone completely different. Now, Jada Pinkett didn't really work. You could make an argument for her being miscast.
Mm-hmm.
But Pac, I'm not too mad at that. Suge, yeah, they keep reusing the same Suge, in a lot of different movies, and that
use him again.
They'll use him again. I mean, they used Biggie from the Biggie movie. If
Definitely
it works,
used Biggie twice.
Don't fix it.
Because he did a solid job in the Biggie movie.
He did a solid job in the Biggie movie.
He did a solid job, so why not bring him back?
Why not? I could see where...
I just feel like nothing would satisfy when it comes to Pac. It's not much that's going to satisfy people other than him. You know what I mean? Because it's very, You could pick apart any movie. You could go in just about any movie unless we talk about the perfect ones. And there's only a handful of those. But you can pick apart any movie and say, I didn't like this scene, I didn't like that, they didn't tell this right, they didn't do this right. And, we can all Monday quarterback all day long.
Yeah. Well, the way it was shot, I didn't love it.
Mm.
Some of the scenes didn't seem like they were properly lit. The director of photography, I guess that was his job. I don't think he hit a home run on that. Script-wise, it wasn't phenomenal. There was an iPad in one of the scenes.
I still ain't see that. I know somebody saw a outtake from an edit, but I didn't see it in the movie.
I think it's in the movie.
In the actual movie.
In the actual movie, yeah. Yeah, it's like when they zoom in, like with him and the BMW.
I gotta go back and look at it.
There's an iPad. The guy even made a video. He pulled out the iPad. Like, oh, look at this. This is the same thing. You never seen that?
Nah, I saw the outtake because I know they had some behind the scenes. You know what I mean? But I didn't see it in the movie. When I watched the movie, I didn't catch that.
Yo, so I'm watching All Eyes on Me. I like this movie, don't get me wrong. But please tell me my eyes are deceiving me. Is that an iPad in Demetrius' lap? Like, I know that, bro. That has to be. Dog. That's an iPad, bro.
I seen that.
That's an iPad.
It happens, man. I mean, what are you gonna do now about it? The movie's cut, it's edited, it's out.
Well, they made a couple Steve Jobs movies. There's really no reason why they can't make another Tupac
Absolutely.
movie.
And when people, with their obvious displeasure sometimes with the movie, I tell them that there were other people in position that had opportunity to make this movie and, chose to do other things. It chose,
right. There was a John Singleton situation. I personally thought he would have done a great job.
Yeah.
I think he would have done a better job than Benny Boom.
I wish it could have worked out.
Right, because when you watch Snowfall and you see his hands in a project in this era.
I still haven't caught Snowfall.
Phenomenal. One of the best series on television.
It's you told me you liked it.
It's that good. It's like the prequel to Boys in the Hood with a bigger budget and better cameras.
Wow. I'll binge you one day.
Yeah, it's that good. And you could tell if just the cinematography and the tension and the drama of it.
Legendary director, man.
Yeah.
John Singleton is one of the greats.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Period. Rest in peace to John Singleton. I wish it could have worked out, you know what I mean? But the movie, ended up coming out the way it did. Shout out to Benny Boom, who I feel like did his best, with what he was working with, and the whole team went in there to do a great job. You know what I mean? Like, I was there pretty much 75% of the time, and nobody was sleeping on the job. Nobody was just there for a payday. They really wanted to do a great movie and honor Tupac the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I feel you. Like I said, like I started in the beginning of the conversation, I actually like the movie. So, for me being a Tupac fan, I walked out of it happy that I saw it.
I'll tell you this, Vlad, I get more positivity from that movie than I do negativity. You know what I mean? Especially out in the world. You're always gonna have your social media idiots that, ain't got nothing better to do. But when people see me out in the world, look, thanks for that. We wanted that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Pac fans wanted a Pac movie.
Right. Then when they get on social media.
He had a green bandana on this day. They got him in a brown one. This movie is trash. With some people, you just never gonna win, so
right.
You can't live your life for them.
Right.
You'll always be miserable.
Well, a lot of my guests in the course of our interviews, Tupac's name comes up. We talked about Lord Jamar recently. And Michael
Pac come up in a lot of people's interviews, man.
What's that?
I said Pac name come up in a lot of people's interviews.
Yeah.
That dude's still working.
Still working. still making weight.
And working, man.
Well, Michael Jai White.
Mm-hmm.
he recently did an interview with me, and Tupac's name came up.
Yeah.
You saw it?
I see headlines.
Okay. So what Michael said is this. He said that he's hung out with Pac a few times. They would play pool together. They would hang out.
Oh, dope.
They would kind of do silly, like have like multiplication table contests. And he said he was kind of like almost like a nerd in a way, like in terms of like his the things that he was into, like, you know, some of his interests. He said he was really funny to be around, but he said that at certain points he would just start acting gangster. What he described as starting to act gangster and say certain things. He would look around and be like, oh, okay, some black people walked in. And he felt like Tupac would go into character around certain people.
You know, Tupac and I, we would do goofy shit like challenge each other with multiplication rock. that was on Schoolhouse Rock. Like, he would be like just a different kind of dude, right? But then like we would be playing and all of a sudden he'd go back into, yeah, I'm a good, and I'm like, somebody black must have walked into the room. Yep, there it is.
And then he went on to say that he feels that being in character, being in that bishop character is what ultimately led to his demise. What do you say to that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I wasn't sitting around analyzing my homeboy when we were together. You know, I know most human beings have multiple sides to them. You know what I mean? I don't know too many one-dimensional human beings. Some are more extreme than others. You know what I mean? Pac was a Gemini, quintessential Gemini, to the T. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just really feel like some people have their own perception of Pac, and, you know, they got a right to that. You know what I mean? Like, he obviously didn't really know Pac, because if he did, he would understand or be able to say from a, you know, from a place of familiarity why he observes this individual this way. But if you don't know somebody and you've only had casual interaction with them, you're gonna sum it up, you're gonna sum them up with whatever information you're privy to. And that might not be enough to really so-called analyze a person to make a statement like that. But again, he has a right to that.
Yeah. I don't know anyone who's gangster all the time. And I know some gangsters. You know, I know some murderers.
Gangsters cry, they laugh,
Yeah.
they goofy.
Yeah.
You know what I
They
mean?
watch
I know
comedies.
real gangsters, killers too, and they all of that.
They eat at restaurants.
And could turn on a dime.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's really people that could turn on a dime. Be laughing and giggling with you and shoot the shit at you in the next breath. It's really people that exist like that. But maybe Michael Jai White hasn't had interaction with those kind of people, you know what I mean? Or, you know, maybe he doesn't see, you know, maybe he's one way, so he expects most people to be the same way. I don't know. You know what I mean? Again, I would say that he has the right to his opinion, though, you know what I mean, with what limited information he has, because again, he doesn't really know Pac.
Yeah, he never admitted to spending a lot of time with Pac.
So he's just going on what he had.
Well, Mob James has been a regular guest on my show.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that he said that caused a lot of debate was his stories about Tupac spitting on people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said Tupac spitting on people several times, multiple times, not just in no one incident. And then Reggie even clarified it, saying when they was at the mall and the cats was throwing shit on him, and he spit on the dude. So I didn't.
Wait, so what happened?
They was in the mall somewhere, and some cats was talking shit and throwing something at him, and Tupac spit on the cats, start spitting at the dudes. Mm-hmm. They had multiple incidents like that. They Las Vegas, when we was in Vegas gambling at the MGM, someone was talking shit, some Tupac spit on him. Maybe that was just reaction of getting at people like that.
Okay, but did you actually see that part or no?
I was there, but we were gambling.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
So when he had the situation there, I don't want to say their name, Rage and all of them was there. Everybody was there at the same table gambling. He walked over here whatever happened over there, everybody had to go there because he spit on the motherfucker and they was mad.
Now, you said you've never experienced that outside of that one video where he's spitting on reporters. I think.
Never. A fan? Nah.
Or just someone he starts to argue with or whatever else? Because he starts describing like, I think he, in our interview, he's talking about a situation like in a casino where...
Nah.
You've never seen that?
Just no. Not at all. You know what I mean? A fan or not even somebody like, okay, let's just go with Pac's history. You know what I mean? Everybody know Pac was a scrapper. He wasn't a spitter. You know what I mean? He'd rather chuck him up with you than spit on you. You know what I'm saying? And females, he wouldn't handle that way at all either, even the overzealous ones. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes when you on that level and you a quote unquote sex symbol, women are flagrant. And I never seen him handle anybody that, you know, some people might have. You know what I mean? He was always, even times when he was aggravated, he would try to be as patient as possible. You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of dude he was. And he ain't want no more lawsuits. You spitting on somebody gonna sue you. That's Tupac spit on me.
Right.
Suing. About to get a bag.
Because he was dealing with a bunch of lawsuits.
A bunch of them.
Hughes brothers.
Yeah, so at that time, you know what I mean? Like, as impulsive as a guy as he was, he did have self-control too. And I've never seen Pac spit on anybody. Like I said, he was a scrapper.
Well, I had John B on my show. And John B was telling me how him and Pac were working on Are You Still Down 2 weeks before Pac passed. Were you with him during that time?
Yeah.
You were in the studio with him?
I was
and John
there that day they did that record.
Okay. And he was kind of describing the situation where Pac, I guess, took his shirt off and he had the bullet holes. And I guess he was talking, or maybe he was talking to John about it, you know, and it's like the wounds were relatively, you know, they weren't completely healed yet and so forth. And he just remembers the imagery of that type of thing. What was that studio session like from your point of view?
You know, I know Pac was excited to work with John B to be able to show another side of himself as an artist, you know what I mean? Because he was into all kind of music, you know what I mean? And I believe if he had the opportunity, he would have wrote all kind of music. Like he was already playing with, you know, what we know is Drake now, different styles, singing and rapping at the same time. He was already starting to play with those styles already, you know what I mean? Different melodies while you're rapping, what's popular right now. So, you know what I mean? This was an opportunity for him to work with an established artist and be able to show that, you know, I'm not just gonna get on here and rap, I'm gonna actually create a whole song with this guy.
It's a love song. Point blank period, that is a love song. And has Pac ever worked with a white artist other than John B?
That's a great question.
I just
in front
realized
of the camera, you might be right.
That is the only white artist he has ever collaborated with in his entire life.
And one of his only R&B features.
Yeah.
That he ever got a chance to do.
Right. Although, you know, Aaron Hall, well, he had a lot of
singers. Those were his records.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were his records. How Do You Want It all them?
Yeah, he's always had
R&B.
I mean,
like featured.
Yeah, he's always had R&B guys on his, or girls on his hooks.
I always thought it was dope that John B reached out. You know what I mean? And wanted to do a record with Pac. You know what I mean? I took a lot of balls at that time.
Right. Yeah. The only white person he's ever
and they actually sat down and did that record together, wrote it, everything. You know what I mean? And we got to see how talented John B actually was. You know what I mean? We wasn't in the studio sitting there the whole time. We would be in and out. But, you know, I know by the end of that song, I remember hearing it like, yo, this is out of here. This is crazy. Wait till they do the video. whoever this dude, I didn't know who John B was at the time. I'm like, whoever he is, he about to be out of here.
Right. He had already had a platinum album or a multi-platinum album. He was
I got hip to him later.
Yeah, he was Babyface's protege.
Yeah, no doubt. They had that one record where it's hard to tell who's Babyface
and
who's him. They
going
sound
back
so
and forth.
similar.
Yeah, exactly. Now, at one point, Left Eye came over to Death Row.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that whole era?
I do, but we were gone by then. We were kind of like on our own by then. We had already severed our ties with Death Row. And whatever connection we had was just paperwork.
But Left Eye was around when Pac was around. No?
They saw each other, I believe.
There was a little bit of overlap
Mm-hmm.
near that time.
Yeah.
I interviewed Dallas Austin. And this is what he said, because he has a close connection to TLC. He produced all their stuff, right?
Sure. A lot of big
has a
records.
baby with Chili, right? So when he talks, it's legit.
Yeah,
he said something interesting. He said that when Left Eye was at Death Row, Pac told her that bad publicity is good, so you should act out to get as much publicity as possible. And she took that to heart and started to burn down houses and cancel shows and just basically go crazy near the end until she ultimately, passed, unfortunately. But he said that according to her and their conversations, Tupac put the battery in her back for that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tupac told her a long time ago, if they're not talking bad about you, they're not saying nothing about you. And so she would just kind of act out even more based off of that. And even though I didn't think that she meant to burn the house down, she had this streak in her at that time. And it ended up being, where they lost endorsements. Like TLC's never really had anything, the things they should have done as a big group, they never did because of stuff like that. No CoverGirl endorsements, no Pepsi. You never seen them with no makeup. You never seen them they didn't even do a world tour until now they're touring because it was just very difficult. And the group ended up being way bigger. The records and the image of the group ended up kind of being way bigger because of all of that.
Does that make sense when you hear it?
I know Pac and Left Eye had a special friendship. They did. But I wasn't privy to their private conversations. I've always heard that Left Eye was a firecracker herself, another Gemini. So from what I've heard, I don't think she didn't need a lot of battery putting in her back at all because everybody that I've known her personally said they could see why they were attracted to each other because they were kind of like two peas in a pod, you know what I mean? Almost. And, Left Eye had spoke about Pac publicly and said that, she felt like he was her soulmate. That's how close, you know what I mean, that they were throughout both of their careers. And, she actually did a painting, you know what I mean, of Pac. And wrote a special note to him on the back, you know what I mean? And, your fans and watchers can go do the research and see what it said, because it's out there, but they had a special friendship. So who knows?
Who knows?
What them two talked about at one time. But I would also say when Left Eye was officially at Death Row, Pac was already dead. So it couldn't have been at that time. You know what I mean? Because, she was still with the face when he was alive.
Yep. What was the vibe at Death Row during like the final few weeks leading up to Pac's passing? Because there was a lot of transition that was happening. Dre had already left, right? Everyone else was more or less around. Snoop was still around and so forth. He would leave next. But there was people coming in. Left Eye was one of them. MC Hammer.
Not at that time. Left
No?
Eye wasn't coming in at that time.
Okay. Hammer?
Left Eye came in later.
MC Hammer?
MC Hammer was there. Yeah, he had already been there.
So you had MC Hammer coming around. Was Mary J. Blige kind of floating around at that point? Jodeci was definitely around. So it was like people who were associated with Puffy were now becoming managed by Suge and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So what was that vibe like at the end?
towards the end, it was really a lot of us. You know, Johnny J at that time had also decided to part ways over some business disagreements.
Johnny J.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't getting paid for his songs?
So that's why you don't hear any Johnny J on Machiavelli. There's no Johnny J production on Machiavelli after him and Pac, you know, was on a run, back to back hits. But there was some.
What had happened? He wasn't getting paid?
I don't know. It was business wise, and usually when it comes to business, it's probably money. You know what I'm saying? He probably was expecting some money from Outlawz on me. Like Records was doing a lot of numbers. I don't know if he was getting it or not.
Yeah.
But I know, you know, Johnny J wasn't in the studio no more. One day he just stopped coming. You know what I mean? And we had to start, you know, work from scratch. You know what I mean? That's when I started to get into production. Pac started to get into production. We started working with some other producers that was around at that time, like L.T. Hutton, you know, for production. And, you know, a lot of times when we went to the studio, it would really just be us. You know what I mean? Just us up in there. You know, Pac was doing a lot of movie work at the time, so he would be studio to the set, studio to the set. That was pretty much the routine.
Right, because I'm looking at the production on Machiavelli.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, QD3 did a song. He did To Live or Die in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
I knew about that.
QD3 was probably the only producer, if I'm correct, that worked both on All Eyes on Me and Machiavelli.
What did he do on All Eyes on Me?
He did Heaven Ain't Hard to Find.
Okay. Right. I remember he was telling me a story that as they were working on Machiavelli, Tupac called him up one day and said, I'm going to put this out as a free mixtape. I'm going to throw this out. He said he started crying. He's like, no, what are you talking about? He was like, yo, no, what are you talking? Don't do that. Like,
yeah, and that was an actual idea, and I think Suge did the same thing. Like, oh, hell no, we ain't giving this out for free. No, sir. And he was serious about that, you know what I mean? Because, you know, that was the East Coast and the mixtapes was always popular. And he knew, you know, he was kind of ahead of the curve again. Like the precursor to 50, he wanted to just start dropping music on mixtapes. You know what I mean? And get them to the streets, directly to the streets, without any filter.
This is just going to be a sidebar. This can't be right. When I look at the producers of Toss It Up, it's Reggie Moore and Demetrius Shipp.
Demetrius Shipp, because Demetrius Shipp Jr., Pops, co-produced that song, Big Meech.
Okay, so this is actually true.
Yeah, but a lot of people know about this. I don't know.
I don't know about this. You mean to tell me that the guy who played Tupac, his father produced on Tupac's last album?
Yeah, Toss It Up, co-produced it. Absolutely.
Does Demetrius Shipp,
I didn't find
senior,
that out until we started working on the movie myself.
Does Senior look like Tupac?
Not really. Not really.
I can't find a picture of him. And his son he worked with Tupac and his son just happened to look like Tupac?
It's crazy.
Who's the mother?
I don't believe I met her. Mm-hmm. Crazy, right?
That is so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, in your world, of course, everyone knows about it, right?
Yeah.
In my world, which is outside.
I know you're tripping right now.
I am tripping, because I'm like looking at it going like, okay, someone's being funny on
right.
You know, Wikipedia.
Right.
Okay, ha, Demetrius
you totally
Shipp
found that
it.
out organically. It wasn't like, that really just happened. Yeah. Yeah. He definitely tossed it up.
Wow. One of Pac's biggest songs at that. Wow. Okay, then there is
very ironic.
It's beyond ironic. Yeah, there's Hurt 'Em Bad, did a few songs.
Did Hit 'Em Up. I mean, not Hit 'Em Up, Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, yeah. I guess Tupac co-produced Bomb First and Daryl Big D Harper,
Definitely.
who's all over it. I don't know these producers.
Right.
I'll be honest.
Right.
He went and got, I just assumed that these were some bigger name producers and I just never looked at the track listing. But as I'm going through it, that whole album had a bunch of producers who weren't famous. It seems like before or after. It's not like they went on to have like a bunch of platinum singles and stuff like that. Some of them don't even have Wikipedia pages.
Because his whole attitude was, what I do, I can make it happen with just about anybody. So long as you know how to work the machines. You know, we had a guitar player by the name of Ricky Rouse that played bass and guitar. Pac liked to work with him. And he was like, look, so long as you know how to cut that machine on, and I got Ricky Rouse, we gonna make some fucking music. I don't care who in the studio. You know what I mean? He was not about going to the studio and saying, damn, Daz ain't here. You know, Johnny J ain't here, Dre ain't here, what am I gonna do? Oh, it's some niggas in that room over there. Yo, go get them niggas over there. Straight like that.
Like that.
Go get the niggas in the, they used to call it the whack room. You know what I mean? Honestly, I'm gonna keep it a buck. You know what I mean? But these were all talented musicians, you know what I mean? Daryl Harper played the piano like nobody.
The whack room.
They used to call it the whack room, and that's f***ed up because what we brought up out of there wasn't whack. You know what I'm saying? What Pac brought up out of there is 5 times platinum.
Right.
Hail Mary, one of the greatest rap songs of all time, came out of the quote unquote whack room.
Yeah, but I heard him bad.
Exactly.
And when I looked up his page, the only other rapper that he's associated with is Willie D.
He's from Chicago, so he's worked with a lot of artists in Chicago. You know what I mean? Obviously, his records haven't reached the success of Hail Mary. You know, that's a hard bar to reach right there. That, like, Pac took one of your beats and did Hail Mary too.
Yeah, but you could really say that if you take out Pac's lyrics and play Hail Mary, the beat by itself, it is not an obvious hit by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so that goes back to that songwriting point that we was talking about.
Pac wrote the hell out of that song.
Exactly.
And this is something similar to what I said about Drake, and people are going to run with it the way they usually run with my opinions about music. But what I said was Drake picks relatively average sounding beats, very sparse.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really overpower the vocals. You know, very few of the beats are like, that beat is crazy,
right,
before you even hear the lyrics. Like, you look at like Tootsie Slide and it's like, okay, it's cool, but what Drake does with it is phenomenal, and he makes hits out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. But the beats themselves are usually non-exceptional.
Right.
You could, outside of, All Eyes on Me, I think, had exceptional beats.
Yep. Some great production on that.
Great production. Great. I mean, the first time I heard I Won't Deny It, I'm a Straight Rider.
Phenomenal.
As soon as you heard that beat come in, you're like, oh, okay, this album about to be serious.
And I'm a hip hop head, so I'm like, yo, this nigga Dad sampled Pee Wee Herman. I knew where them drums came from as soon as I heard the beat.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I remember Pee Wee Herman, how big of a record that was in the early 80s. And the dope shit about Pee Wee Herman, the song, it was a goofy song, but the drums was crazy. You know what I mean? And it would take another hip hop head to, I don't even know Pac knew that right off the bat. But I did, and I knew Daz knew that, because I'm like, for example, Pee Wee Herman to make one of the hardest rap records of all time.
Yeah, but no, he wrote the hell out of those beats.
Yeah.
And created a classic, arguably, some people are gonna like All Eyes on Me, some people are gonna like Machiavelli, but I think those are the two that people...
I actually like the production on Me Against the World. That's my favorite Pac album.
Okay.
It's Me Against the World.
Do you have a favorite Pac song?
I do. But the version I like is unreleased. It's the unreleased version of Hard on the Neck.
Is it floating around the internet?
Yeah, you can find it on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Him and Stretch sample, I think he sampled Metallica. It's crazy. It's Pac at his darkest, it's at his tempo. You know what I mean? He riding it, dealing with whatever he was dealing with at the time. Depression. anger, you know what I mean, optimism all in one record. To me, it's the best of him and Stretch.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Stretch, since our last interview, this guy named Dexter Isaac, who's locked up, claims that Stretch was the one that set up Pac at the Quad studio shooting.
Wow, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dexter, I believe, is doing like life in prison or 40 years or something. You know, so you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt when you hear something like that.
For sure.
Do you believe that?
Being that this is the first time I heard about it, I would have to give that some thought to see what would be Stretch's motive. What did he stand to lose from that? What did he stand to gain from that? It's almost kind of like the Suge had Pac set up situation. Stretch is dead that day, so he's got to be able to hope that, you know, these guys don't bust him, shoot him by accident. You know, it's a lot of things that got to go right for that conspiracy theory to be valid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, if this don't make sense to me, like almost immediately, I start to question it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've debunked the Suge theory. I feel like
Right.
we've nailed it into the ground.
Right.
If anyone still believes that Suge had anything to do with Tupac's murder, spend an afternoon watching VladTV videos with people that were there on both sides.
Either that
nobody.
Either that or get therapy. You know what I mean? Go seek some help for your issues, man.
Well, since last time, I actually did an interview with Jimmy Henchman from prison. And this was actually reported early this month, which I didn't realize, but Jimmy ultimately lost his appeal for the murder for hire conviction that he had. He's already serving 2 life sentences. And I guess at this point, when this appeal has not gone through, Jimmy is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. As someone at the time that was essentially at war with Jimmy Henchman, you know, during the whole Quad shooting era, when you hear that Jimmy's never going to see daylight ever again, how does that make you feel?
It's unfortunate. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate. And it's a cycle of death and incarceration and, you know, kings having whole empires and losing them. And, you know, it's a redundant story that I personally get tired of hearing, you know. So that's really all I can feel when I hear that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had a decent relationship with Jimmy, even, you know, before he got locked up. I've been around him when he was managing Game and so forth. We always were very cordial.
Right.
You know, our interview was very professional. A lot of people say I don't wish jail on my worst enemy. I've never quite understood that. Because if I had a worst enemy, I wouldn't mind seeing them in jail.
About him, right?
Yeah, f them.
Right.
You know, they doing bad.
Yeah.
I'm not losing any sleep over this.
Well.
Oh well, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
But people have their own things. Some people say that because they want them out so they could kill them. So
yeah.
I don't know.
But I never had these kind of emotions towards Jimmy Henchman, and a lot of time, you know, a lot of time passed by and a lot of growth and, you know, seeing life for what it is and understanding how life works, man. You know, we all got to answer to somebody sooner or later, no matter what we're doing out here. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
You know, when you in the street life or whatever you doing, you know there's repercussions and consequences. So, you know what I mean? I know there's repercussions and consequences for whatever I do. You know what I mean? And so it's hard to feel, you know, anything when it goes, because you know the rules of the game and how this go.
Well, conspiracy theories and Tupac are never going to go away. And most recently, Mike Tyson said that his Vegas fight was the perfect opportunity for the Tupac shooting, alluding to, you know, it was more than what it was, which was the Orlando Anderson situation. What was you guys' relationship with Mike Tyson?
I mean, me personally, I didn't have a personal relationship with Mike Tyson. I had, you know, I would meet him. I got to know Mike more post Pac's death through us running into each other. Like when we had, when we were about to sign the Cash Money, we were talking about doing something with Cash Money, and Mike was down there. Don't ask me why, but
Mike Tyson was with Cash Money?
He was just in New Orleans at the time, and
okay.
Cash Money was, you know, I guess holding him down. I don't know how it happened, but we ended up. True story. We just, you know, we was down there to discuss doing a possible deal with Cash Money. They were shooting a video, one of their videos, and Mike Tyson was there when we got to the video shoot. And Mike Tyson is, you know, bugging the fuck out when he sees us, like, yo, I fucking love the Outlawz. My favorite song is Hit 'Em Up and Whoom Whoom Whoop. And you know what I mean? Mike got his shirt off and he just chilling like, you know, regular dude. True story.
Well, Mike and Tupac were pretty close though.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, wasn't it Mike Tyson that told Tupac not to hang around with Haitian Jack and them?
I've heard that before. I wasn't there when they had that conversation, but
yeah,
I've heard, you know, a couple of people had tried to tell Pac about that.
Yeah, and Tyson's about to get back in the ring with Holyfield.
Man, he looked good.
He does look good.
For 50-something.
I want to be in that type of shape at his age. Shit.
Absolutely,
He's 53?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's fire. That's body goals right there.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy for Mike, man. Mike looked good.
Yeah, yeah. There was the story by Snoop where he said that when Tupac confronted Nas in New York, Nas had dudes with 100 guns, you know, there was 100 guns, you know, in the vicinity and so forth. Were you there during that?
Nah, I didn't make that trip. I didn't make that trip. But I definitely heard something different, you know, aside from that. You know what I mean? Just to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, Tupac and Nas, Tupac dissed Nas a couple times, right?
I don't want to say it's a couple times. I know he had a bar or two for him on Machiavelli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he liked Nas.
Was a Nas fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the two of them talked right before he passed.
Definitely.
What was the beef over even? Like why diss Nas on your last album?
You know, with Pac at that time, man, anybody can get it. It wasn't really as personal as some people may want it to be. You know what I mean? He just, you know, was on some Art of War and coming out of jail and you know, restaking his claim in hip hop, so to speak. And, you know, it's like, you know, remind me of the Jordan series when Jordan would say he would create these scenarios with these other players, even if it wasn't real, just to give him an edge. I think Pac had that side to him too, because he was highly competitive and he just needed, you know, just a little something to you know what I mean, spark that fire and give him that edge. And hip hop in its nature is a competitive sport anyway. You know what I mean? And so that's why basketball players and rappers go hand in hand, because it's very competitive. It's very high testosterone, who's the alpha male in the room, so on and so forth. And so, you know, like I said, it wasn't that personal when it came to that guy. That guy didn't really need a reason, but he did like to have an edge, you know what I mean? And say, okay, you know what I mean? That's who y'all love. Let me show y'all why I'm the greatest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since our last interview, Suge took a 28-year plea deal. And you guys have a long relationship with Suge.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, the Outlawz were signed to Death Row.
Yep.
And then you guys left Death Row.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys would run into Suge over the years.
Yeah.
When you heard about the 28 years, what'd you think?
Again, unfortunate. Very unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like, no winners in that situation. You know, somebody lost their life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, Terry Carter.
I know people that love Suge very dearly, you know what I mean? And that ain't nothing I would want anybody to, you know, to go through on both sides of the spectrum. You know
I
what
mean, you interviewed his son.
Absolutely, I interviewed his son. You know what I mean? I know his mother as well, and so
I turned that interview down, by the way, just because the Tupac is still alive conspiracy theory. I don't want to hear that.
I get it.
Yeah, I'm good. If you're gonna come on my show, you know, I'm going to only do it if I think you're telling the truth.
Right.
You're not going.
And we had a discussion about that when I interviewed him.
Yeah, I said I'm good. You're not going to go on and just talk crazy on my platform, and yeah, I'm not here just for the views. I'm here to document reality and the truth. So, yeah, 28 years is a hell of a long time for a man that age.
It is, man. It is, and it's unfortunate again, man. That's you know, another king who had an empire. You know what I mean? And you know, that's the part of history that you hate, but at the same time, for the people coming up behind, you need these kind of stories for people to learn from.
Yeah, because in fact, this is very ironic, that before everyone got picked up by the feds, Shotty, who was Tekashi 6ix9ine's quote-unquote manager, would repeatedly go on social media and say, Treyway, the new death row. He would say it all the time. And him and all his friends all ended up like the old death row, doing football numbers in prison.
Yeah, you can speak things to existence, man. And
yeah,
you know, that's why you can't be trying to, rehash somebody else wave.
Right.
That already came and crashed and burned, and like, why would you want to do that? Like, Treyway the new way. How about that? You know what I mean?
Treyway,
like,
the new TDE.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
The new Motown. Like there's a lot
just like the new you know what I mean? Because these other people did it their way and they had their success, and you're not going, no matter how much you want to, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to do it the way Berry Gordy did it with Motown.
Right. But
Motown is Motown because nobody did it like that before or since.
Right. But you could pick any large, established label.
With it. I know where you're
you know where I'm going with this. Pick any label that you have heard of.
Just pick any of them.
Any of them. From any genre.
Right.
Right? And show me a label that had as much death and prison time as Death Row.
But I think, I'm assuming, I don't know the guy, but I'm assuming what the energy he wants to capture is Death Row's heyday, when Death Row was arguably one of the greatest assimilation of talent for any label.
Right. Everyone knows.
Ever.
Yeah. Everyone knows what he was trying to say.
Print money.
Everyone.
Platinum records. Right. And I think that's kind of, I hope that's what he was saying.
No, I remember Death Row dropped the Murder Was the Case soundtrack with zero promotion, and it went like platinum or multi-platinum.
Stupid.
Just because everyone wanted to hear those artists, wanted to hear Snoop and the Dog Pound and Rage and Corrupt and like the Dr. Dre production and the Nate Dogg.
And that's the talent that everybody got a chance to hear. It was so much talent that nobody got a chance to hear because of the way it ended up that was there.
Yeah, like, Rage's album never really came out. I mean, it did, but not really. Not the way it was supposed to.
You had Nate Dogg, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Nate Dogg dropped a double album way later, past the heyday, which I liked it, but it was not a big album.
Right.
Imagine Nate Dogg dropping while everyone was still there. Come on now. Like, seriously, with Dr. Dre's hands in it and stuff like that. Come on.
Platinum.
Come on. Even Rage. I mean, Rage started off Snoop's album. Think about that. Before Snoop got a chance to rap on his own album, you heard Rage first.
And killed it.
A female.
And killed it.
Killed it.
That's one of the coldest intros to an album ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. And it was, like you said, by Rage, a female who, another artist, incredibly talented, that should have had a chance to drop when the wave was super wavy. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate it didn't happen like that because, you know, Rage was arguably one of the greatest female rappers ever. One of the greatest rappers, period. I don't even want to put female on it because she would body a lot of niggas, embarrass niggas.
Oh yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah.
But Suge is doing 28 years. Have you talked to him while he was in prison?
We spoke a couple times.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that conversation like?
Some of that stuff is private. I don't want to put his business out there, but we have spoken a couple times.
How's his spirits?
You know, he doing time, so we got to keep his spirits up. You know what I mean? Obviously, we don't know about those private moments when he's just him by himself. You know what I mean? But it's tough, man. You know what I'm saying? I know Suge would rather be out running his business, raising his children, and you know what I mean, living his life. But you know, we all got decisions that we make out here, man, and there's repercussions and consequences for those decisions for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, not too many people get to touch hundreds of millions of dollars.
Whew.
I've never done it.
Whew.
I mean, like I'm nowhere near
I haven't
that.
yet.
Yeah, I haven't touched anywhere near that amount of money. You know, as successful as I think I am, I'm nowhere near the hundreds of millions that Suge was touching and was in charge of. To go from that to spending potentially the rest of your life in prison, potentially, you know, who knows? Maybe Suge will live to 100 and the whole prison thing was 20 years behind him. Who knows? But to go in as a man in late middle age, no one wants that. No one aspires to it.
Nah, I'm sure, you know, even that day when he woke up and got out the bed, that's not what he was, you know, expecting to happen.
But he did get out of bed and said, I'm going to be Suge today. I'm going to go show up somewhere where I'm not welcome. I'm going to push some lines. I'm going to act tough around other tough guys like Bone.
Yeah. Another guy, you know what I mean, who we know and knew and got familiar with, and you know, was always a supporter and, you know, always giving us some good game and good information. We actually got introduced to him through Geronimo Jajaga Pratt, who, you know, knew Bone and helped Bone when they were both incarcerated. And so, like I said, you know, when you know people on both sides of the fence, it's hard for you to feel anything but damn, it's a fucked up situation.
Yeah. And, you know, me and Willie D talk about this a lot, where some people like to feel, well, when it's your day, it's your day. You have no say in it. But there are lots of things you could do to push that day forward, to speed things along.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, your day is your day, but joining a gang will speed that day up.
Yeah. Your day is your day. Smoking crack might move you forward.
Yeah.
Closer to the finish line.
Yeah.
Than you was.
Driving around without a seatbelt. Like, you know,
yeah.
It takes a certain level of intelligence to get to an old age.
Facts.
And me at 46, you know, with my 47th birthday around the corner, I feel lucky. Yes, my body ain't what it was 20 years ago, and I got to do a few more things, but I feel lucky. It's a blessing and a gift.
Absolutely, because life is beautiful, man.
Life is great.
Living is fucking great, man. You know, in spite of it all, because it's, you know, you could point to a plethora of reasons why, you know, life is fucked up and it's, you know what I mean? And it's super for some people, you know what I mean? That even you, in whatever position you think you in, could get way worse. Like life gets super
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man. And you know, you try to live your life, especially when you've seen a lot of death like I have. You know what I mean? And long-term sentences. You know what I mean? Cats going away forever. You learn to appreciate each and every second.
Yeah. Because how many of the Outlawz have died now?
3.
3 out of a group of 5
7.
or 6? 7.
You know, if you want to include Tupac, 7.
7. Tupac,
Gaddafi.
Gaddafi.
We also lost Big Sight, who's a part of Thug Life.
Yeah. I actually did his last interview.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a firecracker.
Mm-hmm.
he was not one to hold his tongue.
Nah, not
we
at all.
we lightweight argued in the interview.
Oh yeah,
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
not
aggressively.
Me and Syke had heated discussions before too, so I know.
We had heated discussions. Which I kept in the footage.
Yeah.
Rest
in peace.
All people who should have been alive today based on their age.
Yeah.
None of them died of old age.
Not at all. Not a one.
I think Syke may have had medical issues, but the other three died violently.
Well, yeah, Fatal died in a violent car crash.
That's what I'm saying.
He was in the best shape of his life.
Violently.
Yeah, he was in the best shape of his life.
Pac obviously got killed, and Gaddafi got killed as well by gunfire. So the fact that you're still alive and Noble is still alive,
we don't take it for granted, man.
Yeah.
We don't take it for granted. We don't take the fact that we still travel and people want to see us perform. We don't take that for granted. You know what I mean? Whatever music that we put out, streams, and people, with the music, we appreciate it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, since our last interview, I did the Keefe D interview. And the Outlawz have stayed relatively quiet about that interview. But I remember you and I met up and I showed you the interview before it actually went live, just so you can kind of prepare yourself for the social media onslaught that was about to happen. From your point of view, it was a long interview, but I did focus very much on the night in Las Vegas that Tupac got killed. You and I have had an interview, more than one interview, about what you experienced that night, because you were in the car directly behind Tupac. Keefe D was in the Cadillac along with Orlando Anderson, who actually did the shooting, which he didn't deny throughout the interview. And he also laid out the set of events before, during, and after. From your point of view, what do you think about that interview and how accurate is it?
Well, I can only take him, for what he said. I'm not here to, dispute what Keefe D said about how it happened, what happened. If he said that's how it happened, then, you and I, just as well as everybody else, got to take him for what he said, right? You know what I mean? So as far as that, that's how I feel about that. But again, it's, unfortunate, sad situation of, black men killing each other. He's obviously seen better days. Orlando ain't coming back. Pac ain't coming back. Both sides of the fence have lost multiple people. It's just unfortunate and sad and a tragic tale all around the board. If you take him for what he was saying, like they had their thing rolling, popping. Death Row was obviously very successful. Pac, #1 rapper in the world. Everybody was feeding families and, taking care of themselves and, out of prison and living life, even though, some of this that might have been going on might have not been legal or illegal, whatever the case may be. Still, all that came to a screeching halt. You know what I mean? He said his thing was never really the same.
Well, right, no, he said that his drug connect met up with him right after and said, y'all are tripping.
Right.
I'm out of here.
Right, so just going on what...
Yeah, went back to Colombia, and that was the end of his drug business.
So just going on what he said, like you quoted, his thing was never really the same. Death Row never was able to make it back. We got Suge, 28 years. You know what I mean? A mega talent like Tupac Shakur is going at 25. How much more did he have to give? You know what I mean? How much more did he, music or movies or even politics, that Pac had to give? And it's a wrap. It's history. You know what I mean? It's just something that old like us talk about. You know what I mean? And and I have children and I have young people in my family, and after a certain point, they really don't care no more. It's like old niggas trading war stories. They not even impressed with this shit no more. You know what I mean? It's like, and this generation is a little bit different. It's not as toxic masculinity overrunning hip hop, so it's kind of foreign to them. The whole like, why is everybody so angry and everybody was so tough, and you know what I mean? It's different for them, and so that's the most I can feel for this subject. You know what I mean? At this point.
Well, there's been the theory that Keefe E.D. was the shooter rather than Orlando. I've even heard stories, I'm not going to say from who, that the arm that got pointed out the window was not a skinny arm, it was a big beefy arm. So there's that. How do you feel about that? It is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, what the man said, he told everybody who did it. So because we don't have an alternate version, that's what we got to go with.
Right. But of course he said it about someone who's already dead. Right. As opposed to anyone who's living, with himself and another guy that was in the car being the two living members when he actually confessed to Greg Kading. Do you look at Keefe E.D. as an enemy?
No.
You don't?
No.
You don't look at Keefe E.D. as an enemy?
Nah. And if I did, I definitely wouldn't say it on camera. You know what I mean?
Well, my last question before I let you go, and by the time this part comes out, there's going to be a lot of developments. But at this particular time, George Floyd was murdered recently by a cop. The whole city really stood up in protest to the point of actually burning the police station, along with a bunch of other businesses and so forth. Very, very similar to the 92 riots?
LA riots.
The LA riots.
Yeah.
Pac was out during the riots. Were you out with him?
No. I was actually, here's a bit of irony for you, I was actually living in Minnesota and watched the LA riots on TV.
Yeah, not knowing that decades later, the same thing is going to be happening right there.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Who would have guessed it?
Not having a clue, because Minnesota was always like a racial haven. It leads the country in interracial couples, and always have. I went to school with so many biracial kids and had biracial friends, and had friends who had white mothers and black fathers, or black mothers and white fathers all over Minnesota. You know what I mean? But on the undercurrent to that is a resentment towards that, because there's some people that are not with racist mixing. You know what I mean? So you do have, especially in northern Minnesota and in the outskirts, white people that are not with that at all. You know what I'm saying? And really resent that type of shit. So it's not surprising to me that, Minneapolis, St. Paul, not only had racist cops that, would kill an unarmed black man, but that people will respond to it the way they responded to it. Because Minnesota got hoods and ghettos and gangbanging and dope dealing and dope selling, prostitution. It has everything that any other inner city has. It's really geographically close to Chicago and Detroit. You know what I mean? So you get a lot of, people moving in and out of town doing their thing. You know what I mean? So,
well, yeah, you take that and you compound it with a large portion of that community is out of work right now because of the quarantine. They've also been in the house for weeks and weeks and weeks and getting aggravated, as we all are. But, listen, I live in a big house in a gated community. I can't understand what someone that is living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 other people is going through over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Waiting for that $1,200 check, which I'm not getting because of my income. And
you may not get Even if you,
yeah,
you know,
and it may not be
'cause
coming.
those ain't guaranteed checks
And yeah,
either.
and half the people in that house lost their job because restaurants or whatever
Right.
businesses have closed, and you take that anger and aggravation and that frustration of not being able to pay your rent, and then you throw the imagery of someone that looks like them getting murdered by a white cop.
I would actually take it a step further because we had another case that was still fresh in the media.
Ahmaud Arbery. Yeah.
Which people are highly upset. It took how long for somebody to get arrested in that case? And so when that type of thing happens, people feel like you spitting in their face. You know what I'm saying? You feel like you slapping me in the face right now with an open hand. You know what I mean? And you don't have no respect for me, my people, for human life even. When it's on tape, clearly this man was attacked. Even if you arrest somebody and you do an investigation, you do the FBI comes in, the DOJ, whoever, they investigate, you gotta at least show common respect and decency to human life. But nah, weeks go by and somebody's not even arrested. You know what I mean? And so I feel like in Minneapolis, St. Paul, I heard today that they arrested one cop.
They arrested the cop who actually killed him.
Right.
Right.
But people were gonna riot until somebody got arrested.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I think the rioting is premature. You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's history with this kind of situation that if you go back case by case, there's a certain way law enforcement is gonna handle this in conjunction with the prosecution. You know what I mean? You're gonna get an arrest, you know what I mean? And so that's gonna lead to hopefully a grand jury saying, we wanna take this, we wanna charge him with murder. Hopefully it's first degree murder because it looks
Well, he's being charged right now with third-degree murder and manslaughter.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not getting first degree.
So that's
But first degree is premeditated.
Right.
You'll have a hard time trying to prove that.
Right, because you would have to say that he rolled up there that day to kill.
There is also a story coming out that the two of them actually worked together.
I heard that.
As bouncers in a club.
Mm-hmm.
So there might have been some sort of history. Oh, this is that motherfucker that the girl who I liked.
Yeah, I watch enough Dateline to see that type of shit really be happening.
Yeah.
By the end of by the middle of the episode, you find out that homie was homie wife.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And
it might have been personal.
Turned into a crime of passion. It looked personal. It looked personal because
from
what I looked at when I watched that video, and I try not to watch it anymore because it's horrific to watch somebody last minutes on last few breaths they taking. But when you look at the cop's face, I don't remember his name right now, but he looks like he's enjoying it. You know what I mean? Like, I actually see some pleasure.
Yeah, Derek Chauvin is the name of the cop.
When you see Derek Chauvin with his knee in the back of Floyd's back and neck, he looks like he's enjoying it.
Yeah, that's that picture that's always shown. He doesn't
and then
look
when you
like,
watch the video in its entirety, 5 minutes is a long time, man. Just try to sit still and silent for 5 minutes and grasp how long that is to be putting your full body weight in the back of somebody's neck.
Yeah, he's saying, I can't breathe. They're trying to kill me. Everyone around, all the people that are watching and filming and so forth.
Begging them.
Like, yo, like
they begging
you're
him.
killing him. The girl that actually filmed that video, she's 17. People like, if this happens to me, don't film me, help me. And it's like, 17-year-old girl who's scared for her own life, who's scared that she might have a knee in her neck if she tries to approach them.
People love to talk about what they would do in a scenario that they have never been in.
17-year-old girl, whoever thinks that she has any level of blame, shut the fuck up.
Like she was supposed to shoot the cop, jump on him, like, come on.
17-year-old girl. She's a minor.
Right.
And she's a girl. Like, what? Four cops with guns.
Right.
Stop it.
Right.
Cut
she
it
should
out.
be commended for being brave enough and not, walking away, because many of us are unaffected.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Many of us will see some shit, film it for a minute and go on about our day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and think about it. You take that video away, the body cam footage might have been telling a very different story.
We've already seen what they do with body cam
see what I'm
footage.
saying?
They can manipulate that.
They could redact it.
Absolutely.
They could manipulate it. Oh, it just so happened that everyone's body cam footage wasn't functioning that day.
Forgot to cut it on.
Oh, well, you know something? We transferred the footage and it just disappeared. We don't know.
What are you going to do? It's the police.
It's the police.
Who's policing the police?
I've always said the Ahmaud Arbery case, had that one guy not filmed it, it would have ended up like a Trayvon Martin situation. This gangster black guy attacked us and we barely fought him off. All right, let's punch me in the face a bunch of times, scrape my head against the asphalt to make it look like he was attacking me first. Like make it look real bad so it looked like self-defense. 3 white witnesses. This guy attacked us first. We were minding our own business. No video, no case.
If it ever gets to trial, not guilty.
Not guilty like a George Zimmerman.
Right.
It could have very, very, very easily come out. Take the Trayvon Martin case and throw a camera into there. A surveillance cam or someone, back then people didn't really have, iPhones like that. You know what I'm saying? People had them, but not to this
in the
extent.
Trayvon situation, it was at night. You know what I mean? It had just rained. There wasn't a lot of people out. You know what I'm saying? To be with their phones. Had that happened in the middle of the day, you never know who would have got footage of that.
You
because
never
people,
know.
You actually had, which still, haunted me at the time and haunts me to this day. You can hear Trayvon screaming in the background when people are calling 911. You hear him screaming. You know what I'm saying? So you do have audio of Trayvon Martin. That was not enough in that situation. And, George Zimmerman's father, well-connected down there in Florida. Who knows? I heard some stories, I don't know how true it is, but the alleged killers in the situation with Arbery, they're connected with law enforcement. You know what I mean? And then in Minnesota, you have an actual cop. And so these things will go to trial. Sometimes they push this trial back to late 2021 or even 22. People forget about it. People are not as upset as they were. The trial doesn't get covered that much by media. Not guilty. That's why I say you rioting too soon. You know what I mean? If y'all want to riot, hold that shit off. Because it ain't really nothing to riot about yet. You know what I mean? They had to make an arrest.
3rd-degree murder in Minnesota means causing the death of another through a dangerous act without regard for human life, but without intent to cause death.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Saying that he had no regard for this guy's life, but he didn't necessarily try to kill him.
What kind of time does that hold?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probation?
Yeah, I know, right? I know. But the guy is saying, I can't breathe. They're trying to kill me. So.
Because in my opinion, at some point during those 5 minutes while your knee is in the back of his neck, you had opportunity to get up and say, well, we got him subdued.
Yeah.
He's in handcuffs. Let's go ahead and take him, to the precinct and do our paperwork. You know what I mean?
Whatever.
It's routine. There's too much opportunity for him to get up off of that man's back.
Right. And the one thing, there was this one black cop did a selfie video talking about this. And he said that as a police officer, your actual job is that of a first responder. Until the ambulance arrives to take over that job, you actually, part of your job description is to be a first responder. So if somebody is dying, you are required by your job to save that person from dying. So those other 3 cops who are standing around, as this guy is saying, they're trying to kill me, I can't breathe. It should have been their job to prevent that from happening.
Well, you know what, Vlad? I don't know if people realize this, or I know it's a lot of people that do. But I'm gonna just put this out there for your viewers. police and law enforcement changed over the years, from the 90s to right now. And it kind of started before the 90s. Police departments and police force are essentially the military now. They have everything besides, F-1 bombers and, tanks. Some departments even do have
LAPD
tanks.
has tanks.
They have battle
in
rams.
fact, I remember seeing an interview on 60 Minutes with the chief of police of NYPD, and they said they got something that'll shoot a plane out the sky.
Okay.
So let's just.
So you proving my point
Yeah.
right there.
After 9/11, he said that.
Police department is essentially military.
Yeah.
When a military army force goes in to a situation, are they going in to arrest people? 10 times out of 10. Is the military going to arrest people and lock people up?
There to kill. Yeah.
And so that's essentially what we have. People may not realize it because it's not as overt and it's not that in your face, but law enforcement and police departments are designed to go military at any given moment, waiting for the National Guard.
Yeah.
We got everything the National Guard and then some.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't, when the National Guard got more of a boogeyman label to it than they really, because you don't need the National Guard anymore. The police department is the National Guard. They are a military force. They have everything, that you need to be a military force.
Yeah.
And that's why, you have cops that are inclined to just kill first. They have the law on their side. You know what I mean? Their success rate in beating these charges is phenomenal.
Phenomenal, yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, if a cop gets the death penalty, if this cop gets the death penalty, although you start throwing around words like third-degree murder, and it doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but let's just say
They setting the bar so
they're setting
low
the bar
already.
low, right? Manslaughter, you don't get the death penalty
Not
for
at all.
manslaughter.
Not
so let's
at
just
all.
say that the third degree doesn't hold. You're left with a manslaughter conviction, 5 years maybe. You
If
know,
that.
in a I remember Trey D talked about this. Cops don't get put in general population.
Not at all.
They get put in special cop units with other dirty cops.
Absolutely.
And snitches and, so child molesters and whatever else where no
Right.
one really causes a lot of trouble in there.
Yeah.
So
Which makes sense. Like, they're not going to put a dirty cop in population. Like,
they
they
You'll
basically,
have a
that's
shelf
death
life
sentence.
of 20 minutes. Yeah.
Right.
So
and the beat goes on.
And the beat goes on until a cop gets the death penalty for murder, which I personally think this cop should get.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to send a message out to everybody.
Mhm.
That's going to make people double think about and triple think and quadruple think about pulling that gun out or doing that chokehold or, going through excessive violence, because it's like, okay, I might die in the process of doing that legally.
Mm-hmm. Or if some other cops, you know what I mean, decide to not just stand by and be a witness, you know what I'm saying, to murder, because in most of these situations, there's always another cop, there's other cops around, and they work in cahoots in these type of situations, man. And somebody like that cop who did the selfie, you know what I mean, somebody's got to be brave enough to say, yo, I'm not gonna stand there and watch that.
Yeah.
Whether it's white, black, it doesn't matter what the race is.
The blue shield of silence.
The blue shield of silence, somebody got to break that.
Someone's got to break
so
that.
it can make the next dirty cop be a little bit more apprehensive when he doing some bullshit. Like, oh, I don't know about Joe Blow over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He may not be with this because we're starting to see more and more cops saying, I'm not going to just abide by the blue shield anymore.
Yeah.
We can all wish, right?
Yeah. More cops saying what's right is right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go against this because it's right. Because, because look, there's dirty
I
cops.
didn't sign up for this.
There's dirty cops and there's cops that came in to say, I really want to help.
For sure.
I really want to help battered women and victims of violence.
Sure.
And I want to help clean up this community
For
legally, not by
Absolutely.
beating people up or whatever. I want to get drugs out of this system,
Yeah.
out of this area. I want to get rid of the child molesters and the people that are messing this place up and make it better. A lot of cops are like that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
life goes on in the community, and there's a rapport between law officers and the community. and it could be very cordial and they can both work together. You know what I'm saying? Because people want to live a happy life. They don't want their stolen. They don't want to be murdered. So obviously there is a need for law enforcement. We can't live out here in complete anarchy. And most of the time that situation can work out amicably. Everybody can live harmoniously. The police do their job. The communities have their communities, but it's the quote unquote bad apples in a bunch that want to take their badge too serious, you know, want to take their job too serious and want to treat people, you know, less than. And you're not going to be able to treat human beings like that for long because there's going to be a reaction to that every time.
Yeah, they're going to burn down your precinct.
You know what I mean?
You didn't even see that in the LA riots.
No, you didn't.
They took it one step further in Minnesota.
No, you didn't.
And I'm not really mad at it. I'm not anti-police, but I'm not mad at that particular action based on what's been happening.
I'm a love child. My mama and daddy was in love when they made me.
Yeah.
I want to see everybody happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to see people get money and living their life, but at the same time, you can only push people but so far before you get a reaction, and people are human.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not robots. It's not like, okay, let me go think about my reaction to this bullshit I just seen.
Yep. I feel you, E.D. Always a pleasure. Appreciate you coming through. It's been a couple of years now.
Appreciate you giving me a platform.
On camera, but off camera.
To chop it up.
You know, not a week or two passes without us talking, man.
Real talk.
So I appreciate it, man. All the best for you and your family.
Likewise, man.
Until next time.
Yes, indeed. Peace.